Phoenix Rising by Michael Anastas. That night, I caught Merlin tiptoeing up the stairs. At the rooftop, he took out his dragonite and was about to climb on his back until he saw me. "You're up late," he said bluntly. "As are you." I closed the door and walked into the open night. "Can I presume that you were going to go hunting for the wraiths?" Merlin nodded slowly. "That book Freeman has scares me. Half of what's in there points towards us, the Phoenix trainers." So, if Mike is going to bring back the Ho-Ohs and start a war, I question whether anyone in the battlegrounds will survive. He climbed onto Dragonite's back. "Don't forget, the entire planet could end up being their battleground. I've killed one of them already, and now that I have a little experience, I'm ready to take on the rest." The door behind me opened, and Ash tiptoed out. He nearly fainted when he saw us. "You were going to go wraith hunting too?" Ash smiled innocently. "Well, yeah. If we're in the book, in a sense, we caused this. And if we caused this, we shouldn't just stand about." Merlin raised an eyebrow. "I don't know how we could have caused this, but I see your point." Darius came through the door, saw us, and tried to close the door in silence. It was old and creaked a lot. "Another hunter?" asked Merlin with a smile. Darius grinned sheepishly. "Yeah, and I guess the same goes for you three. What's really ironic is that I caught Nikki and Andrew about to do the same thing." Well, the pattern repeated until we had the remaining 9 Phoenix trainers and Ash's 2 long-since friends up on the roof, Dragon being the only one who felt forced to come. "You're all insane," Dragon said bluntly. "None of us have the power to fight the wraiths and live." Merlin got down off of Dragonite. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I can't fight them. Maybe none of us can fight them. But Dragon, we can do more than fight them. We can win." He climbed back onto Dragonite's back. "If you don't want in, then that's fine with me, but don't just stand there and bitch about it." Dragon Matrix cracked a smile. "You always win." He called out his Pidgeot. "That's why you're the Magi." Everyone called out their strongest flying Pokemon and prepared for takeoff, until I so stated, "You know that I'm coming too, right?" Ash looked down from his Pidgeot. "Not to sound cruel or anything, but haven't you done enough?" finished Dragon. "I know, and that's why I have to fix it." Ash smiled proudly. "Hop on!" And together, we flew away from Sierra Mana, possibly our only haven left, and flew blindly into the night, praying to God that we could find them before the prophecy came true. We stopped to rest outside of a city called Reno in Nevada. The sun was just beginning its rising ceremony, and despite that, we were going to call it a night. "Merlin?" I said worriedly. "Yes?" "Where exactly are we going anyway? Do we know where the wraiths are?" Merlin sat down, crossed his legs, and supported his chin. "No, we don't know where the wraiths are, although I might know someone who does. Meowth said that Giovanni took him to their temple, where he made the request that his men stay alive." "I already thought of that," called Nikki. "That's why I took the liberty of capturing Meowth. A band of idiots, the Rockets are. They never took the effort of capturing Meowth to begin with." "You caught Meowth?" I blurted out. Nikki got up from her seat and came over, her new friend Lavian following behind. "Yes, I already checked. He doesn't know where Giovanni went, but he does know that there's a new Team Rocket building in Salt Lake City. He'll have fled there for sure. In fact, if he traveled on foot like he did before, we might just beat him to it." I nodded in agreement, turned my back to them, and looked down at the ground, still thinking about the wish I had made. "You all right?" asked Nikki. I took a deep breath. "I'm okay." Of course, she didn't believe me, and sat down beside me. "You're feeling guilty?" she asked. I sighed deeply. "I made the wish that turned me evil, and that made Michael the chosen one from that book that Freeman showed us. How can I not feel guilty?" Nikki stood up. "I felt guilty when Michael was hurt in the plane crash because I backed down on the mission when he joined." "Your point being?" "Well, I guess it's like Andrew said a few years ago. Stop bitching and do something." I raised an eyebrow at her. She shrugged her shoulders. "We lived through that mission, so it helped us with our lives." She turned her back to me. "Just think about it, but remember that it's already been done. No changing the past, so you'll need an answer soon. Lavian, Avi Lavi. That translated easily in my Pokemon mind. No time like the present. It was true, but there was no way in hell that I would fix my mistakes at the present time. Once again, I lowered my head to the ground. It was probably the most depressing moment of my life. Lavian saw this, draped his paw around my shoulder, and licked my cheek for reassurance. But all it did was remind me of the times when it was me licking his cheek, when his times were tough. Tears slowly formed in my eyes, and I soon fell asleep. I awoke later that night, and someone's hand slapped down over my mouth. Gary looked down into my eyes and whispered, "Don't bother to scream." I gave Gary a frustrated look before I bit down on his hand as hard as I could. Gary's fingers swelled and turned blue. I could taste the blood as it flowed from my hand, yet Gary almost failed to notice it. He pulled out a needle, filled it with dark blue liquid, and drove it into my shoulder. The tranquilizer overcame me immediately. I fell to the ground with a dull thump, and Gary slid his bleeding hand under my neck, lifted me up, and carried me away. All I could do was watch the ground moving above me until I gave up and passed out. I awoke staring up at a wooden tower some 20 feet from the ground Gary had set me on. The tranquilizer had almost completely worn off, and with the strength I had, I pushed myself up from the ground and surveyed my surroundings. I was in a large clearing surrounded by a brick wall, a future dump site. Only a rebel would dare enter this place. Anyone else would simply be wasting their time. "At last you're awake," Gary said smugly as he walked up to the edge of the tower. He certainly looked different in the night. His attire had changed from the black trench coat to a black leather jacket and matching jeans, and as he climbed down the ladder, I saw the big orange phoenix on the back. "I hope you don't mind the costume change," he said with a laugh. "My old clothes are soaked in blood. I guess the same cannot be done for you." Gary was actually correct this time. His blood now stained my arms, shoulders, and muzzle, and the taste still lingered in my mouth. I got to my feet and backed away. "Relax, none of it is yours." "If you'd earned the right to wear that jacket," I began. "Forgive me, but I thought this might be a significant symbolism. You see, we, the White Knights of Tartarus, as we are sometimes called, also know the legend of the Phoenix Rising which you speak of. If you remember, the Phoenixes and the Wraiths are to fight a holy war. Fact is, however, that both sides are of exact equality, and the only losers shall be those foolish enough to stand in the middle." "You're telling me what I already know." "Am I? Well then, let me get straight to the point. The Phoenix trainers are not going to resolve this matter in any way. In fact, they might just make it worse. It's possible that Merlin will stand in the way and cause an even greater catastrophe." I stepped back, and my right paw struck a rock, sending me falling down on my tails. "What do you mean?" Gary shrugged his shoulders. "It's never been written, but it's a definite possibility. Obviously by now, you already know of Merlin's unique ability to absorb Pokemon magic into the stone on his sword and use it in combat." It was then that everything fell into place, and I had already predicted what Gary would say next. Still, I was too scared to say it. "Let me remind you that both the Wraiths and the Phoenixes are Pokemon. Both of them are elemental, the Phoenix of Fire and the Wraith of Darkness, and they both have a powerful wave attack that concentrates all of their power on one weak spot." Gary smirked. "If they are both elemental, then both of their power can be absorbed into Merlin's blade. You know what will happen. A Wraith and a Phoenix will use the same attack on each other, and Merlin will step into the middle in hopes of absorbing both attacks." He let it hang there until I picked myself from the ground. "What happens then?" I asked, now more curious than afraid. Gary shrugged his shoulders. "Nobody knows. There are over 1,000 possible results. The two powers could cancel each other out. They could give him an attack that would kill himself just to release. They could react negatively and create a crater 500 feet wide. They could even make him more godly than the Phoenixes and the Wraiths combined. All I know is that none of the outcomes can be good, and we have to do something to prevent it from happening." "What makes you think it will?" Gary grabbed my shoulders. "Damn it, it will! It's been in that fucking book for damn near 5 centuries! Everything in that book is coming true! Can't you see that?" "And what do you plan to do about it? Help the Wraiths win?" Gary smiled smugly. "You're pretty smart for a Pokemon." He turned his back and walked away. No, I'm not working for or with the wraiths anymore. True that I cannot leave until my wish has been fulfilled, but Ash has already died twice. I will have to go back, but my wish can wait. Right now, there's someone who must die for the sake of the planet. I already knew. If you want Michael's life, you'll have to bury me deeper than the Earth's core, lest ye be strangled by my cold, dead hands. Gary smiled smugly. You catch on fast, I'll give you that. Then, in a flick of his wrist, the black sword appeared before him. But obviously, you are too blind to see the true solution. Apologies, but you must die.